Again, this is another alternate kind of distribution model that we follow sometimes. This was is actually from a video clip that we created for the presets, but that video clip only came to life because we'd originally placed the music in a sync campaign to launch the BMW 1 Series out here. So from that simple sync, we kind of, instead of just allowing a song that had been already out for a couple of years to kind of be at the heart of our advertising campaign, we asked if they would allow us to remix the song to make it a bit more interesting. So we had a guy from Paris called Lifelike redo the song for us, and that was the song that appeared in the TVC, and we also gave the song away for free to anyone who wanted to sign up to BMW's page. And from that, they were so happy with it, they actually allowed us to create a video clip to accompany the song as well. So they were a bit freaked out by our treatment idea, which was that we wanted to feature 10,000 BMWs in the song. But it worked really well. Collider, who are another great Sydney outfit, and Jonathan Zawada, who's worked with us a lot over the years, were really the masterminds behind it. But it was a great outcome. Another example of a way of kind of using unusual, I guess, distribution models. Then this is kind of going back a little bit, perhaps, to what I was saying about Modular trying to support the younger artists by leveraging our own name. These are 3 flyers from parties we did in London and LA, I think. Yeah. And because almost all of our artists are Australian, we do obviously have trouble sometimes putting on parties overseas because none of our artists live there. So what we tend to do is we'll blend other musicians who we admire or we may have worked with on other projects together in an event situation whereby we might include 1 or 2 of our new acts as well. So it's a way of kind of trying to put them on par with these people who we really admire, and also at the same time hopefully getting a lot of kids down to see them who perhaps wouldn't have under other circumstances.
It sort of also started because no one wanted to book our bands anywhere.
That's a major factor.
The whole thing with the international offices and our events internationally was just because no one else would do it, so yeah, we had to do it ourselves.
That actually is true. So, I mean, the Pav, who's the guy who isn't here, he is one of, I guess it's his greatest asset and most terrible curse, is that he's very aesthetically fussy, and so doing other people, it would just be a lot of time. We'd want to be producing a merchandise range, and he'd spend like 2 months fussing over about how long the sleeve is supposed to be because he wouldn't allow anyone else to make it. So in a sense, it's good to have that much control, but other times it can be a bit too much. But having said that, it's really worked well in promoting Modular as a brand. These are another 2 examples of working with external partners. Again, on the left is the design of the swing tag for the collection we did with Uniqlo last summer. And on the right, it's another fashion example that was working with Puma. The Uniqlo one was, for us, was really important to do because even though Modular is quite popular in Japan, we didn't have a lot of label support there from our Universal partner there. It just wasn't quite right for them. So we wanted to do something whereby we could get ourselves a lot more visibility and exposure for the artists, and ended up working with Uniqlo on just putting together a range of t-shirts that were all just a little bit of a retrospective of all the artwork we'd created in the past, and they ended up making 300,000 of them and selling them in Japan. So we had 300,000 Japanese kids walking around with little billboards on themselves for us, which is great.
Amazing.
Puma, the other example, is just a company we work with quite a lot in Europe, and we work in the capacity then largely behind the scenes in programming entertainment for them. But again, that allows us the opportunity to put our bands forward slightly selfishly to the events that they're doing. Then our own marketing, there's just 2 little examples here. One, just to show, I guess, the diversity of the kinds of things that we do. There has been a tendency in the music industry just to follow a kind of cookie cutter model, or particularly before the whole market collapsed, which was, you always buy ad space in these channels, you do this kind of below the line work, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's really important to look at your own internal marketing in terms of doing things slightly differently. So 2 of these, one of them is just the presets iPhone app. So particularly when there's lots going on with them in field with touring and album releases and everything else. That's a bit of a portal for all their information. On the other side is a completely different example, which was an art exhibition that we did in collaboration with Goodhood, was it?
Yeah, store in London.
For the Bumblebees, who had produced like everything to sort of basically kit out a store/gallery. So there's big posters, screen printed posters, and handmade T-shirts, and so on and so forth. And that was the way to kind of launch the album there. So I guess the lesson there is just to be as open as you can. These are two recent examples for Tame Impala, who's our latest band to be released here. Again, I just wanted to show the diversity of the thing. So the first is like rolling papers, so we can all just get really stoned. And the second was, whoa, that was appropriate. The second was is an interactive website whereby anyone can go on there and basically rehash the album artwork and save it as a collective gallery and send it on to their friends and so on and so forth. So just a couple of things to remind people that it's out. And then I just wanted to finally put in a few things about the continued importance of media. For us, it's really, really important. And I guess the channels and final outlets of media are changing, but you still need to do a good job with it, particularly for Australian acts who may not have the opportunity to get overseas as much as they would like. The first one, the one at the top, is just from our own website. And why I wanted to include that, I guess, is just because we're finding that there's more and more interest in actually, and this is thanks to the internet, in fans who want to find out more about the artists aside from just when their next tour is and when their album's released and so on. So that's just a thing from our own website whereby we're looking at Canyons, who's one of our bands, and their top 15 favourite album covers of all time, just in terms of the artwork and why and so on. The bottom one is Pitchfork, which is kind of like the music Bible of the world at the moment, and mostly I just wanted to include this because we're totally dominating the front page.
Those are all modular acts.
Yeah, the far left is from the CEO video premiere, so is this side, I think. And in the middle, it's the Tame Impala Best New Music, I think.
Yeah.
That's like having the whole front cover of Variety, basically.
Yeah,
you know, I guess.
We don't want to brag, though.
For one day.
Yeah. And then, lastly, this is just something that came out yesterday, so I thought I'd whack it in at the end. Again, it's a bit of an example of perhaps changing media and the way it can be utilised. This was something we teed up with, in combination with The Fader, who's another music and sort of youth culture entity, I guess. And it was being sponsored by Nike, and what Nike were doing was they were just looking at taking a different artist from each of the continents and putting together a playlist of only music from that particular territory as seen as sort of a bit like a World Cup celebration. So Canyons, again, put together a playlist for them, which went out this week. And obviously things like this are so good for viral spread as well as being picked up by other media and so on. So that kind of is the end of my slides.
Fantastic. Thank you.
No worries.